Now, British news photographer Nick Stern was injured in the riots after being shot with a plastic bullet and joins me now from his hospital bed in LA. Nick, an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for joining us. First of all, you've had emergency surgery on your leg after being hit by one of these rubber bullets. Tell us why you were there and what actually happened.
Yeah, I'm freelance. I work mainly for British news organisations. During the day, it was clear that the ICE raid had escalated a local protest. So I actually went down there quite late in the day, around 2:30, 3 o'clock. And what I saw when I got there was a burnt out vehicle in the middle of the street and a skirmish line set up by the LA Sheriff's Department along a street. There were rubber bullets being fired at people. There were pepper balls being fired, but also the crowd were returning fire with some bricks and rocks and some small fireworks. And this kind of escalated through the day and continues through the day. The time I got hit was around 9 o'clock at night, when again there were barricades set up and some of the protesters were throwing things like bits of concrete and fireworks and so on. And this was responded to with a volleys of shots from projectiles from the Sheriff's Department deputies.
Nick, in your line of work as a photographer, you've covered protests and riots before. You've just been explaining some of what you experienced. Have you seen anything like this before?
I covered the George Floyd Black Lives Matter protests in 2020. There were similar kind of protests then, but that was a smaller number of the population, I think. Certainly in LA, so many people are behind these protests now from all different cultures, different races, different environments. So, no, I'm not seeing anything that has escalated to the volume of protests that this appears to be doing right now.
And Nick, we know others were injured too. Have you been in touch with any other members of the press who were covering this event?
Yeah, I've been in touch with a lot of members of the press who were there that day and previous days and previous protests in LA. Not specifically people who have been injured, but as journalists, we all keep in touch and, check on each other's welfare. So obviously I've had a lot of calls, a lot of messages and so on, checking on how I am and so on, and messages of support and things like that. I'm frustrated because last night there was a big protest in downtown LA and I just feel I should be out there alongside my colleagues.
Yes, of course. So journalist work never does really stop. But Nick, I see that you're still in hospital. I want to know, and I'm sure the audience really want to know, how, Nick, are you feeling? And will you be able to return to work anytime soon?
I've had pretty major surgery on my leg. There was a projectile that was 3 inches long by over an inch diameter, hard plastic that was embedded in my leg muscle. I'm hooked up to a vacuum pump that's draining fluid from the wound. I've got IV in my arm. This will be going on for at least a day or two. They're concerned about infection setting in. So I can't walk at the moment. I barely have stepped out of bed and can't do so without support. So I don't know how long I'm going to be here for, and equally how long I'm going to be immobile for. But it's pretty frustrating. I do have a physical therapy session today, which I'm really not looking forward to, but I think it's going to be a gradual return to mobility, really.
Nick Stern, please keep in touch with us and let us know how you're doing, and I hope you do recover soon. Nick Stern, news photographer there, joining us from his hospital bed in LA. Once again, appreciate you.
Thank you.